Welcome to the channel. Today's movie is a new one called You're Killing Me, and you have no idea how accurate a description that actually is. This isn't my usual kind of movie, but my previous review of Infinity Pool felt like way too serious a thing, so I decided to do this fun little rebound review. A good friend of mine said he was going to review this movie as well because he'd heard it got some good reviews, so I figured, why the hell not? We're not in competition with each other. And now I'm thinking my friend might actually be an evil genius who's tricked me into reviewing this movie because, well, you'll see. Thanks very much, Chase. The movie's directed by Beth Hanna, and I'm not familiar with her as a director because apparently this is her first kick at the directorial can. The movie stars McKaylee Miller, whom I'm also not familiar with, and Dermot Mulroney, whose face I seem to be seeing more often than I'd like lately. He's just not a great actor. And finally, the late Anne Hesh. I did look into it, and this wasn't her final movie. Apparently there's two others currently in post-production, so I feel comfy enough not pulling my punches here. All I knew about this movie before I'd watched it was what I caught in the trailers. Side note, if you don't want the movie spoiled, do not watch the trailer because it gives away absolutely everything. And don't watch the rest of this review either because full spoilers ahead, boys and girls. The movie opens with a detective introducing himself to a class full of high school students. He says he's investigating the disappearance of their classmate, Melissa Brown. And from there, we meet Eden Murphy, played by McKaylee Miller, as she's approaching Barrett Schroeder, played by Bryce Anthony Heller, who has a serious young James Spader vibe about him with his David Blaine magic jacket and feathered hair. Combine all that with the fact that he's got three names and him and I probably aren't going to be getting along very well. Apparently, young James Spader's father's a congressman, and he's on the acceptance board at the school Eden wants to get into. But before she's able to get the whole question out, young James Spader responds exactly the way you'd figure somebody looking like him would. And by the end of the short exchange, Eden's no further along. So she decides to head around to the guy's house later that night for a party so she can make a last-ditch effort. And her dad drops her and her friend Zara off later at the party, and Zara's going begrudgingly, and that's probably the only balance you're going to find in the entire script writing. Then at Eden's request, Zara plays the wingman with one of young James Spader's friends named Gooch. While they're in the kitchen, Eden muscles her way into Barrett's company. But before she can start working her magic, the missing girl's sister shows up at the party and accuses everyone of knowing something about what happened to her. And so far, I have no complaints. So to get into Barrett's good books, Eden volunteers to drive the girl home. And on the drive home, they find a folded heart in the car, one like the missing girl used to make according to her own sister. And if you thought that would cause her sister to freak out, you and I would be thinking along the same lines. She did, after all, just bust up an entire party with an emotional outburst in hopes of digging up some kind of evidence. And that little heart is definitely evidence. But she just gets out of the car. When Eden returns, Barrett's actually bearable for a moment or two, and he gives her the grand tour of the house and a bit of his family history. But again, before Eden's able to grease his gears for an introduction to his dad, Zara ends up drunk. But instead of taking her friend home, Eden takes her upstairs and leaves her in a bedroom all by herself. Morally speaking, I would consider this a dick move on Eden's part. And remember this for later. And right as she's leaving her off, we see Gooch in the bathroom messing around with a load of prescription pills. He may have been considering taking some of them, but we never really find out because there's no payoff to the setup. Back at the ping pong table, Eden sinks a ping pong ball into a cup in exchange for the illustrious introduction. And after she gets what she wants for herself, she goes back upstairs to collect her friend Zara, where she finds Gooch spooning her unconscious body. So she kicks him out, and then she finds photos of him and passed out Zara in his phone, along with a video of him and the gang and the missing girl on the day she went missing. When Gooch tries to get his phone back, he realizes Eden's seen the evidence, so he beelines it for Barrett the boss. The phone dies halfway into the video, and when she goes to find a charger, she's met at the door by Barrett and his sidekicks. So she locks them out and insists on a charger to watch the rest of the video or she won't open the door. But instead of accommodating her, Barrett clears the house of guests instead. When Eden goes for the charger, it turns into a battle royale to try and get it back into the room with her. And she loses the battle royale, and up until now, I still don't have any real complaints. That is until right this actual second. After what feels like hours of Eden holding them off at the door, Zara wakes up right at the same time Gooch is sneaking in through the bathroom window. So Zara lets him in without knowing what's going on. But half a second later, instead of the situation creating any tension, Eden just knocks him out. So never mind all that silly technical tension movie stuff. Then Barrett Jack Nicholson's the door with a decorative axe. They even lift the camera angles and everything. When he gets through the first door, the girls barricade themselves behind the bathroom door, and the scenario from the last 20 minutes repeats itself 6 feet to the left. Then Eden drops Gooch into a full bathtub and holds a hairdryer over him. Even though this scenario's been proven not to work scientifically, it somehow gives Eden and Zara the upper hand. Until that is, Barrett cuts the power. So they head for the window, but Barrett's crony Kendra beats them to it, only she ends up on her ass on the grass with her own knife jammed into her back. The back and forth continues. So Eden heads down the ladder, but Zara can't manage it as she doesn't seem to be able to grasp the idea of turning around before she steps on it. And then Barrett comes around the corner, so Eden goes right back up the ladder. And the back and forth continues to continue. And just for your reference, we're nearly done the second act of the movie, and up until this point, the story has been about the good guys hiding from the bad guys behind something. Then Eden's lovely dad returns to pick up his daughter, and he finds the place empty with the front door wide open. So he wanders upstairs and finds Eden, but Barrett smacks him with the axe, so Zara gives him the phone back. Then Barrett's parents come home unexpectedly in the form of Dermot Mulroney and Anne Hesh. So they all convene in Dermot's office over some friendly drinks. Then they find Kendra dead in the bathroom, and Barrett cries even though he told her to go fuck herself when she begged him for help 20 minutes earlier. And then the congressman offers to buy everyone off in exchange for their silence, and everyone agrees, except Eden, who's the moral compass of the story now, even though she left her drunk friend alone and unconscious in a strange house an hour ago so she could get what she wanted for herself. And she insists they watch the rest of the video on the phone, which they do without any kind of fuss or struggle, even though the phone contains sufficient evidence to put a few of them away for murder. And in the video, Barrett and the gang hit the missing girl with their car and wrap up her body in a sheet and dump her over a bridge. No twists, no turns, no surprise reveals. And considering they strung us along for nearly 40 minutes dangling the fact Eden had only seen half of the video in front of us, meaning the video didn't actually count for anything. And that's mildly disappointing. When they get up to leave with the phone to go to the police, they realize they've all been drugged. And despite having a fully functioning phone in her hand, Eden doesn't bother dialing 911, which would bring the police even if she couldn't speak. Instead, they all drunk crawl towards the door while the congressman gloats about knowing all the judges in the area. Eden wakes up in the passenger seat of Barrett's car. He tells her they gave them super high doses of lorazepam and propofol, which you'd definitely have tasted in your drink even at a tiny dose, but at this point in this story, whatever. And when they arrive at the dumping spot somewhere in the dark woods, Eden says, "You don't have to do this." And he says back, "Yes, I do." Which in a narrative sense really moved things along nicely. Then Hesh and Mulroney set everything up to look like the girls killed Kendra, and then Barrett stabs his best friend Gooch to death, and they stick everyone in the car and push it into the water. And right when I thought this movie couldn't annoy me any more, the car they use for the stunt is a tiny little model that makes a smaller splash than my neighbor's French bulldog falling into their pool. Then it hard cuts to a few minutes later, and Eden and Zara have escaped to the muddy banks. But Daddy didn't make it. And they did this hard cut because they couldn't possibly have shown the full-sized human actors climbing out of a toy model car, could they? And if you'd have thought it would have been sensible for the congressman and his criminal genius family to stand there on the banks and watch until everything went to pot, you wouldn't be wrong. But they didn't. In the next scene, Eden sneaks into the congressman's massive home undetected and kills him. Then she fights Anne Hesh, who's 3 times her age and a third her size, and right when Anne Hesh is about to win the fight, Eden kicks the hairdryer into the bathwater Anne Hesh was standing in. Then she plays a game of chicken in the driveway with young James Spader, who's still wearing the David Blaine magic jacket. And she knocks him down, and you'd think that would be that. But nope. After being hit directly by the car, he somehow ends up with the upper hand, and right as he's about to kill her, Zara wanders back into the picture and thwaps him from behind. Now there's been news coverage on television and a full police investigation, all somewhere between them getting out of the car and this very minute. So I don't know if this scene happens 48 hours later or 48 weeks later. Not that I give a shit. Young James Spader's closing line is, "You're killing me," just like the title of the movie. And that closing line brings the movie to an end and puts me out of my temporary misery. There was a potentially interesting premise here somewhere. The moral, ethical quandary, dilemma, whatever. That whole angle could have been drawn out for some decent tension as far as Eden's character's concerned. How much do I want to get into this school? Is it worth turning a blind eye to murder? Story sounds like it really could have gone somewhere in the right hands, huh? Can I say the movie is the shite bits? Of course I can. It's my own channel. I'm not going to honor this bastard of a thing with one of my verdict transitions, and I'm not going to write a witty outro. Don't watch this movie. It is horrible. I will make up for this review in my next review. And don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on more of these fun times. Until next time, folks. It's me, Johnny, from that thing you just watched. If you enjoyed it, go down there and smash me in the face to subscribe. And if you want to watch another thing, there's one right there. Do it!